Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Spark. I'm Coach David. Hope you're doing fantastic on today. Hope that you are up and at it and getting after it day by day, making your life better, improving your life, and living your very best life. I'm so happy that you have decided to join me. Why don't you do me a big favor and go ahead and reach out, connect to somebody, and let them know that, hey, Coach David is on and he's going to help us develop and grow and get better. Certainly, what I want to do on today is to strengthen you even the more as you go day to day to day, doing, being, and having all the great and wonderful things that you would like to do, be, or have. And let me tell you something, it's possible for you. You just have to make that decision. Today, I want to speak on continuing with the growth mindset, frame of thinking. I want to speak on what I believe is the number one challenge to a growth mindset and what you should do about it. The number one challenge to a growth mindset and what you should do about it. I want to share a story with you, and this is a very true story, something that happened to me recently, and it kind of opened my eyes into something that I believe is the number one challenge to a growth mindset. Recently, I was in a classroom environment with some students, and one of the students, we were talking about grades because this is exam period and things of that nature. And we were talking about grades in particular. And this one particular student of mine made a statement and said, when I don't get the kind of grades I want to get, and when I talk to my friends, I lie about my grades. And so that naturally caught my attention. And so another student asked, why? Why do you lie about your grades? The student was kind of like being inquisitive as to why would you do that? Why would you lie about your grades? So what the student did, the student began to talk about it. And the student says, hey, look, I lie about my grades because I don't want to appear to be dumb. And that really got my attention. It was the appearance of it all. It's about how she or he appeared. And so when I looked at that, I began to say, wow, this is one of the things that I believe that is hindering us from having a growth mindset. And I think it's the number one hindrance is how we appear to others. So when I heard that, I immediately went into my mode of being the coach and talking this particular student through the growth mindset and understanding that this appearance, this thing that you're trying to stop could be keeping you from having a growth mindset, because appearance is about what we think is visible to others, how we're seen. And, it's just one of those things that can hinder you and hold you back from having a growth mindset. So what I did after I talked to the student, I began to study this and I learned something. I found this very, very interesting. A study that I was looking at indicated that 40% of students lie about and even elevate their grade. Why? Why would they do that? Well, the reason why they do that is because failure becomes an identity rather than an event. What do I mean by that? Very simple. I fail becomes I am a failure. And that is a very dangerous place to be. Anytime, because think about it. If you fail at something, that's just an event. But if you take it on to mean that I am now, because of this event and me failing at this event, now that I am a failure, oh my goodness, that takes on a totally different light. I fail because I do not have the ability, so why should I try? And that is what's going on with a lot of people, not just students, but adults. We cannot, openly admit that we have failed without taking on, the image or the persona that we are a failure. Just because you fail does not make you a failure. Look, this is what I see with students, and I'm sure it's in the adult realm too. A lot of times I am a failure can, if you allow it, it can become a slippery slope into other things. And if you're not careful, some really bad things can come out of this. Well, what I've seen with students, I'll talk about that. And I am very sure that it rolls over into adults as well. Number one, I see the shirking of responsibility. In other words, this is not my fault. Okay, this happened, but this is not my fault. The teacher didn't teach me well. The teacher doesn't like me. I've seen that before. Wow. Another thing that I see happens is the denial of it all. When you take on this persona that I am a failure, what you want to do, you're protecting your appearance. And so you're now in a self-denial, and that's why people lie. That's why we have to elevate ourselves, because we don't want to appear less than. Because we don't want to take on this thing that I am a failure. No, not me. I never could be a failure. I have never failed in my life. This can't be happening to me. And so what we have to be careful of is that. Here's another thing that I see happening too: the self-deception of it all, the denial of it all. I've even seen students, in order to project that perfect image, what students will do, they will even cheat. And I've had that happen where students cheat. And when you talk to them, they will tell you that they cheated because, I'm not good at this subject. I'm not smart as other people are. And so therefore I cannot fail, because now that goes directly against my self-image. And that also makes me look less than. So what we have to understand is we got to get beyond this. It can't just be about the appearance. Okay, we can't take on the event. Look, the event happened. You fell. Look, it happens, okay? There's no different than slipping and falling down. You've got to get back up. You've got to do better than trying to mask it, cover it up, deny it, shirk it, whatever you want to do, cheat at it. You cannot do those things. The appearances, we're avoiding that. Okay, that's what we're avoiding, the challenge at hand. What is the challenge at hand, David? The challenge at hand is the appearance of it all. And what we've got to do, we got to get beyond that. We've got to work beyond that. We've got to find a different way to deal with our failure. So I'm going to give you some different ways to deal with the failure. The first thing that I want to talk about is the R&R. What is that? You've got to recognize and realize. You've got to recognize and realize. Number one, failure is painful. Listen, when you fail, I said this one time, I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and says to themselves, well, okay, I got my face washed, I brushed my teeth, I'm looking good, I took my shower, I'm dressed. Let me go out and find a way to fail. The people aren't doing that. My thing is this right here. Failure, yes, it can be painful. It is painful when you fail. I know that. I failed before. That's very painful. However, here's number two. Failure does not define you unless you let it. Failure doesn't define you because you have a hiccup, because you make a mistake, because you have something that doesn't go the way you want it to go. That doesn't define you. It only defines you if you allow it. So what you got to understand is that this is just an event. This is not who I am. So that's number three. Failure is an event, not an identity. I'm going to say that again. Failure is an event, not an identity. You don't have to identify with the failure. You just identify that, hey, this happened, and I understand this right here, that I'm okay. I had a failing event. That is not me, does not make me the failure. It makes the event the failure. And what I've got to do is number four, I've got to understand that failure can be a pathway to learning. Failure can be a pathway to growth. Failure can be a pathway that says, look, I got to do some things differently. I got to try some different things. I got to work this situation out. And listen, I'm okay with a person failing and attempting to work it out. What I'm not okay with, and I share this with my students all the time, I'm not okay with you avoiding. I'm not okay with you saying, hey, look, you're cheating. I'm not okay with you denying it. Why? Because you don't get better. Listen, take the test, fail the test, and come back again. I've had students do that. I've had just this past week, I had a student. The student had missed some school, and they came in, and that was the day of the test. And the student came in, and the student failed the test. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay that you failed the test. The student requested if they could go back because they missed school, study, and then come back and retake the test. Now, Granted, it is the student's responsibility when they miss school to get the information and be caught up. I got that. And I'm about that. And I always remind them of that. However, what kind of growth mindset do I have if I don't give the student the opportunity to bounce back, to come back? This is what happens a lot of times. We won't even take the opportunity to bounce back. We won't even take the opportunity to come back. We would much rather just stay in our fixed mindset of I'm not good at this, so there's no need to try. Now, consequently, this student went, studied, came back the next class, took the test, and scored a 96%. Why? Because of the pathway to learning, the pathway to growing, the pathway. Are you held accountable for that? Yes, you're held accountable for that. But my point is this right here. You don't give up. You don't quit. It's not over until you quit. And I've had students, they fail and they never say a word about it. They just take the failure. I'm just not good at this subject. No, it's not a matter of you not being good at this subject. That may be the truth in one shape or another. But if you study, if you prepare, if you work at it, you can get better. And that's what I want for you. So your mindset changes the meaning of failure. What do you mean by that? The growth mindset says this right here. When I fail, I learn. What? Yes, when I fail, I learn. That's what the growth mindset is about. The growth mindset is about understanding that, look, sometimes things are going to happen. It's not going to work the way I want it to work, but I'm going to stay in the fight. I'm not going to cave in. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. I'm encouraged that, hey, I'm in the battle. I'm in the fight. And though I come up short, guess what? That's not the end of the story, because I understand this. If nothing else, I learn what not to do. That's right. If I don't learn anything else, I learn that does not work. Also, excuse me, I learned something else. I learned that I have to do things differently. I've got to find a different pathway. I've got to find a different way. I've got to do something different to accomplish this objective. Okay? It is not about immediate perfection. My goodness, sometimes you're going to hit it and you're going to be immediately successful. That's going to happen. It does. But many times you may come up short. And when you come up short, you got to know how to mentally deal with that from a growth mindset perspective, which says that's okay. It's not over. I can give it effort. I can have resilience. I can have some grit. I can bounce back. I can come back, and I can learn and grow from this thing. So the number one challenge of appearance to your growth mindset, let me share something with you. Forget appearances. Forget that. You got to know who you are, work on who you are, and forget the rest. That's all you can do. Know who you are, work on who you are, and forget the rest. The most important appearance is how you appear to yourself. That's the most important appearance. And so if you've taken on that fixed mindset of I don't want to appear dumb or I don't want to appear not smart, let it go. Let it go, because I believe it is hindering you from the growth mindset and the success that you really seek. So with that being said, I hope you will take this and I hope you will use it in order to be better. Don't let the challenge of appearances stop you from having a growth mindset and moving forward in some great and wonderful things. Thank you so much for being here on today. Thank you for joining me. I hope this has helped you and encouraged you along your way. Use this week, use it with someone, and encourage somebody along the way. Because I will tell you this right here. When you do that, you not only help yourself, you help others. All right, this is Coach David. I'm going to get out of here on today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with somebody. I will see you next time. But remember this right here. Remember this. You are the architect of your life. That's right. You get to design it, build it, because you're going to live it. But most of all, I want you to know, Coach David, that's me. I believe in you. I will see you next week. Bye.